Just look at this moment. Viktor Gyökeres should never be allowed that much space between Tottenham's center backs. João Palhinha has to recognize the danger earlier and track the movement. That lack of coordination perfectly sums up the defensive issues that have plagued Tottenham Hotspur this season. Although Arsenal have been outstanding for most of the campaign, Tottenham's defensive frailties made things even easier. Conceding 41 league goals reflects a structural problem: poor spacing between defenders, weak midfield protection, and slow reactions to vertical runs. Arsenal capitalized fully, running out 4-1 winners at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and continuing their strong run of form. It was also a difficult debut for Igor Tudor, who suffered defeat in his first match in charge. From a tactical perspective, Mikel Arteta set his side up in a 4-2-3-1 structure, focusing on midfield control and vertical combinations. Meanwhile, Tudor opted for a 3-4-3 system, aiming to use wingbacks for width and create overloads in advanced areas. Let's break down how both systems interacted and why Arsenal's structure proved far more effective on the day. Igor Tudor's tactical framework was structurally clear. By setting Tottenham Hotspur up in a 3-4-3, he aimed to create balance between defensive solidity and attacking width. Out of possession, the system could naturally collapse into a back five, with Jed Spence and Archie Gray dropping alongside the three center-backs. In possession, the wing-backs were responsible for providing width, while the front three narrowed their positioning to create central overloads. The intention behind this design was numerical flexibility. Defensively, Tottenham could match Arsenal's front line with five at the back. Offensively, they could overload midfield zones or create 1-versus-1 situations out wide. On paper, the structure provided balance and adaptability. However, in this match, while the conceptual design was logical, the execution lacked precision and coordination. During build-up, Tottenham attempted to progress from the back with both wing-backs, Spence and Gray, dropping slightly deeper while maintaining width. The idea was to stretch Arsenal's press horizontally. If Arsenal remained compact centrally, Tottenham could circulate wide and advance. If Arsenal shifted wide to press, central passing lanes would open. Arsenal, however, were tactically prepared. Under Mikel Arteta, they organized their press to guide Tottenham into predetermined zones before aggressively compressing space. Rather than pressing recklessly, Arsenal angled their runs to force play toward one flank. Once the ball was played wide, they triggered an intense man-oriented press designed to suffocate passing options and create turnovers. For example, Arsenal encouraged Mickey van de Ven to release the ball toward Spence. As soon as the pass was made, the pressing trap was activated. Bukayo Saka closed down Spence, Eze engaged Yves Bissouma, and Viktor Gyökeres blocked the return lane into Tottenham's back line. Passing angles were rapidly shut down, forcing Tottenham into either a risky vertical ball or a hopeful switch across the pitch toward Gray. To counter Arsenal's aggressive pressing structure, Tudor introduced a secondary adjustment. Tottenham's wide forwards, Conor Gallagher and Xabi Simons, began dropping deeper and more centrally, forming a temporary midfield diamond alongside Pape Sarr and Bissouma. This movement was designed to disrupt Arsenal's man-marking references. By pulling Arsenal defenders or midfielders out of their natural positions, Tottenham aimed to create gaps for third-man runs into the defensive line. In one instance, both Gallagher and Simons dropped into midfield zones. This movement dragged Arsenal's left-sided defender out to follow Gallagher. The vacated space behind him created a channel for Simons to attack. João Palhinha recognized the movement and delivered a direct long ball toward Randall Kolo Muani, who won the initial aerial duel and laid the ball into the path of the advancing Simons. The structural manipulation was correct. The concept, drag, release, exploit, was visible. However, the final execution lacked composure. Simons failed to deliver a decisive return pass to Kolo Muani in a promising situation, and the move broke down. Ultimately, Tudor's approach showed tactical clarity. The build-up patterns, midfield rotations, and pressing counters had logical foundations. Yet at this level, structural soundness must be matched by technical precision. Tottenham's ideas created moments, but their inability to execute cleanly in decisive phases prevented those patterns from translating into tangible outcomes. When Arsenal were in possession, they maintained their usual commitment to building from the back. Gabriel and William Saliba formed the first line of circulation, calmly attracting pressure before progressing forward. As play developed, both Timber and Hincapié advanced higher up the pitch to join Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi in midfield. This temporarily transformed Arsenal's base 4-2-3-1 into a 2-4-3-1 structure. At times, when one fullback moved into the half space instead of staying wide, the shape resembled a 2-3-4-1. These rotations were deliberate. By committing both fullbacks into midfield zones, Arsenal sought to overload Tottenham centrally and destabilize their pressing references. To counter this, Tottenham Hotspur pressed aggressively. Their intention was not just to close down the ball carrier, but to simultaneously block passing lanes and apply man-oriented pressure across Arsenal's midfield options. For example, when Rice received possession, Randall Kolo Muani pressed him directly. Conor Gallagher positioned himself to block the passing lane into Viktor Gyökeres, while Xavi Simons stepped onto Zubimendi to deny him time and space. Archie Gray screened the passing lane toward Trossard, but remained close enough to jump onto Gabriel if the ball was switched. Meanwhile, Pape Sarr was tasked with engaging Eze. Structurally, the pressing scheme was organized. Tottenham attempted to compress Arsenal's build-up zones and force them into rushed decisions. However, this level of aggression required significant numerical commitment. Once multiple players stepped forward to enforce the press, space naturally opened behind them. This is where Mikel Arteta's side showed tactical maturity. Rather than forcing vertical passes too early, Arsenal patiently invited Tottenham forward, drawing them higher up the pitch. Once the press was committed, Arsenal either played through it with quick combinations or bypassed it entirely with direct balls into advanced areas. After breaking the first line, Arsenal attacked Tottenham's backline with width and positional manipulation. By dragging defenders toward the flanks, they exposed central gaps. Tottenham's defensive line often lacked compactness and discipline, with defenders stepping out aggressively to follow runners. This created vacated spaces between center-backs, spaces that Gyökeres intelligently drifted into. His movement off the shoulder, particularly when a defender stepped wide to engage, generated multiple opportunities in central scoring zones. On the right side, Bukayo Saka and Timber combined through overlapping and underlapping runs. These movements pulled Jed Spence and Mickey van de Ven out of their natural defensive positions, opening interior channels for Eze to attack. The principle was consistent: stretch horizontally, provoke individual marking reactions, and exploit the disorganization that followed. Ultimately, Arsenal's ability to manipulate Tottenham's press and capitalize on the spaces left behind was decisive. The structural battle was not merely about formations, but about timing, spacing, and exploiting defensive indiscipline once the initial pressure was broken. In conclusion, this was a tactically revealing contest. Arsenal did not just win because of individual quality, they won because of structure, timing, and superior execution. Mikel Arteta once again demonstrated his ability to prepare his team for different pressing scenarios, manipulate opposition aggression, and exploit spatial weaknesses with precision. Arsenal were patient under pressure, brave in build-up, and ruthless once they bypassed Tottenham's first line. For Tottenham Hotspur, this match highlighted both potential and clear areas for improvement under Igor Tudor. The structural ideas were visible, the 3-4-3 provided balance on paper, and the pressing scheme had coordinated triggers. However, the distances between units were inconsistent, and the defensive line lacked compactness when stepping out to engage. Moving forward, Tudor will need to improve three key areas: defensive discipline within the back line, better protection from midfield during pressing phases, and clearer communication when shifting across the pitch. Pressing aggressively is effective only when the rest defense behind it remains compact and connected. Without that balance, opponents with strong positional play will continue to find central spaces. Special praise must also go to Viktor Gyökeres. His movement between defenders was intelligent and decisive throughout the match. He consistently attacked the spaces created by Tottenham's defensive shifts and was clinical in front of goal. Reaching 10 league goals at this stage of the season underlines both his consistency and his importance to Arsenal's attacking structure. Ultimately, this was a performance that reinforced Arsenal's tactical maturity and title credentials, while also serving as an early lesson for Tudor about the structural demands of competing at the highest level.